News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
And so on behalf of President Trump, it's my great privilege to administer to you the oath of office. Ladies and gentlemen, the 52nd Secretary of the Interior for the United States of America, Ryan Zinke.
History was made yesterday in the White House, the first Montanan ever to be a member of a presidential cabinet. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Thursday, March 2nd, 2017. Skies cloudy, 31 degrees in Missoula. Roads in pretty good shape. It's Interstate 90 is bare and wet, both east and west of Missoula. Highway 93 north, bare and wet all the way to Polson. And we have some snow cover on Highway 83 from Clearwater Junction up to Seeley Lake. Our newscast this morning, sponsored by Dig It Excavating, bringing 30 years of excellence to every job. Call 214-4292. Our top story this morning. History was made at a White House ceremony yesterday as Montana's Ryan Zinke, the first Montanan ever to become a member of a presidential cabinet, stood before Vice President Mike Pence to become the Secretary of the Interior.
You'll look after and be a steward of the interior of this nation and the vast natural resources of this nation with the same commitment to principle and integrity that has characterized your life. And so on behalf of President Trump, it's my great privilege to administer to you the oath of office. Ladies and gentlemen, the 52nd Secretary of the Interior for the United States of America, Ryan Zinke.
After taking the oath, Zinke praised his Commander-in-Chief, President Donald Trump.
I've spent some time with him. I can tell you, with marching out to Dover to watch Chief Owens come home and watching the president witness that, I saw the makings of not only a great president, but a commander-in-chief that I will fight with. He is sincere. He loves his country.
The Department of the Interior has over 70,000 employees with an annual budget of $25 billion. Now that Ryan Zinke has been confirmed as the new U.S. Secretary of the Interior, the Montana Secretary of State's office has provided information about a special election to fill Zinke's unexpired term in the House. State Elections Director Derek Ostreicher has details.
He selected a date for the special election, May 25th. Now, the governor had a date range between 85 and 100 days from the date of Ryan Zinke's vacancy, and the governor picked the 85th day. That was May 25th.
Ostreicher said state law mandates a standard polling place election with one exception.
Montana Code Annotated, Title 13, Chapter 19, Part 104, actually states expressly that a special federal election cannot be conducted by all-mail ballot unless expressly authorized by the legislature.
State Democrats will meeting in Helena Sunday to choose their candidate. State Republican Party Chairman Jeff Essman said his party will meet the very next day.
I've called the special meeting with Montana Republican State Central Committee, which is composed of 4 Republicans elected by each organized Republican County Central Committee, to meet in Helena on Monday, March 6th.
Essman has details of the Republican nominating convention.
Pre-meeting event starting about 2 p.m. Monday afternoon. Our formal meeting will gavel in at 6 p.m. on Monday evening for us to select a nominee to become our next congressman.
Essman said he's hopeful that with the right candidate and a great deal of hard work, Republicans can retain the seat they've held since Rick Hill was elected in 1997. Governor Steve Bullock assigned a package of bills that seek to reduce costs within the criminal justice system and help reduce recidivism. One bill calls for the Office of Public Defender to establish a pilot project that would get clients in touch with the social workers and other services that might help address the reasons they got into trouble with law in the first place. One bill will allow jail inmates free phone calls to their attorneys, saving the Public Defender's Office over $35,000 a year in collect calls. Another bill signed yesterday eliminates the requirement to appoint a public defender for an unknown parent in child abuse and neglect cases, which could save the state about $100,000 a year. A fourth bill allows criminal records for juvenile offenders to be shared electronically rather than on paper. For years now, the University of Montana has been dealing with falling enrollment and subsequent budget cuts. During a meeting of the Faculty Senate this week, U of M biochemistry professor Doug Coffin raised the question of whether or not U of M was in the midst of what he described as a death spiral.
This is the problem, is we get a public perception that we're an institution in decline, and we get into this sort of negative feedback loop where we keep losing students do more cuts, losing students, do more cuts, the perception in the public is that we're in that death spiral. So consequently, they choose another university.
According to Coffin, those responsible for UM's budget woes are not the faculty, but Governor Steve Bullock and Commissioner Clay Christian.
We're not here because of the poor quality of our academic programs. A lot of these decisions that caused the budget deficits were managerial decisions, locking us into a tuition rate that was below cost. In any business, if you lock into a rate that's below cost, you're going to lose money. That was the Board of Regents and the governor and the commissioner who made that decision.
Coffin says what the University of Montana really needs is a long-term plan, but he says he's skeptical that such a plan can arise under short-term interim leadership. Missoula police were busier than usual this past weekend when it comes to DUI arrests. According to Public Information Officer Travis Welsh, police arrested nearly double the amount they typically do over an average weekend.
Don't exactly know the cause of it or why it happened this particular weekend, but we made 12 DUI arrests between Friday and Sunday night. I would estimate that on average we see anywhere from 4 to 6 DUI arrests on a given weekend.
St. Patrick's Day is rapidly approaching, and that holiday usually leads to multiple DUI arrests. Welsh says the Missoula Police Department's already preparing for the celebration on March 17th, which happens to be a Friday night.
We'll have an operations plan for that particular holiday, but going forward, we haven't really drawn any conclusions from the fact that we made this many arrests on a weekend. What we hope, of course, is that everybody has safe and happy weekends without tragedy, like we saw with the fatality on Mount Street last weekend.
One might imagine that most DUI arrests occur in the downtown area, but Welsh says DUI arrests are being made all over the city. After thousands of snow geese died in the toxic water of a former open pit mine in Montana last fall, the companies responsible for the pit are bringing out the big guns, literally. Montana Resources at BP-owned Atlantic Richfield are buying propane cannons triggered by long-range motion sensors and as one additional measure to keep birds away from the Berkeley pit during the spring migration in Butte. Also in the plan are radar, air and water drones, and strategically positioned lasers that would create a net across the pit and deter the birds from landing in the metal-laden water. The plan is outlined in a memo submitted last month to federal environmental and wildlife officials. The companies are seeking approval to test the technologies during the spring migration season that began yesterday. Our News Talk time is 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly cloudy to cloudy skies today with a chance of a few showers. Daytime highs will top out in the low 40s. Tonight, isolated showers after midnight. Overnight lows in the upper 20s. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for Missoula's KECI 13.